Hi everyone, I'm Sarita Morrison, the Customer Success Manager at Merlin One, and I have Randy Simpson, the Sales Director, here with me as well.
Hello, good afternoon.
All right, well, I just want to make sure everyone can hear us okay. Now, sometimes we have technical difficulties, so if anyone could just put a message in the chat that they could hear okay. All right, well, we'll get started. I wanted to welcome everyone to today's Talk with an Expert. So today's Talk with an Expert series is all about usage history. So we're going to discuss how to keep track of how your assets are used within your Merlin dam. All right, well, as always, we want to keep it short and sweet, so under 30 minutes. And the session is going to be recorded and available on our website. So please ask any questions that you have in the chat window. Randy's going to help with answering the questions. Remember, they don't have to be specific to today's topic. And if you have any ideas on new topics for upcoming Chat with an Experts, let us know. We always want to make sure we keep them relevant to what our customers want to learn about. I'm not sure if you guys are all aware, but Merlin has always tracked history for all outputs, including download, shares, and transfers to server targets out of your Merlin. But it also manages publication history when you have it configured. And when an asset has history on it, you'll notice an H icon in the metadata palette. So that's something that we'll walk through, and I'll show you how you can view that history on an asset. We're also going to take a look at how you can add usage history to an asset through the edit tool. And in newly released version 5.6 of MX, you can actually add additional usage history to an asset during the time of output. And you have an option to actually make output history fields mandatory in order to complete a download, share, or transfer to server target. And then we're going to take some time to show you how you can configure usage history on output once you're on version 5.6 of MX. Do we have any questions so far, Randy?
Nope, nothing so far, Sarita.
Okay. All right, well, let's jump into things. All right, so this is my demo Merlin. If you select an asset that has usage history on it, you're going to notice an H icon in the metadata palette. So let's see if we have one in here that has history. So you notice the H shows up in the metadata palette. And if you want to view the history on this asset, you just click on the H icon, and then it will display the history for the asset. So you can see that it was downloaded from MX, and you can see the date and timestamp as well. And then you can also see the user name for the person who downloaded it. Remember, basic asset history is added automatically to document when an asset was exported out of Merlin. So you'll most likely have some assets in your system that have this icon displayed, and you can take a look if you have interest in learning who exported it. So you can also manually add usage history to an asset. So if you select an asset that doesn't have usage history, you can click on the edit tool and then select add usage history. And this will open up this form where you can type in the information that you want to add. And let's put in a publish date as today. And then if you just click on apply, it will add the history to the asset. And you'll notice now in the metadata palette that the H icon is displayed, so we can look at the information that we recently added. All right, so the next thing I wanted to show you is how in newly released version 5.6 of MX, you can add additional usage history during the time of export. To review an example, we're just going to pretend that we're going to download this asset. Or we can actually go through with downloading it. But as you can see on the download form, it now has this area called output history. And then it has fields that were customized by our admin so that when I'm downloading it, I can add this additional information. If you do not have required fields, it will just display as closed. So then it gives the user an option to open this up and fill it out if they'd like to, or they can bypass it. If you have a required field, which will be highlighted in red, you'll have to complete this step in order to download the asset. But I'm going to just go through and fill out the information. And I'm going to put in why I'm using it. I'm going to use it for the web. And then I'm going to click download to complete the download. All right, so now you can see the history is on this asset with all the information that we input. So the one thing I want to mention is if you do not configure this in version 5.6, then it's not going to display. So once you get upgraded to 5.6 of MX, you'll have the option to configure this, but it won't be done automatically. So in order to configure it, you just have to click into the administration panel. And then you'd like to select output history. So it's going to give you the option to configure this at a group level if you choose. I'm going to do default so that everyone sees the same forms. And then you have the option to configure it by form. So say you want to configure this on the download or email link forms for the shares, but you don't want to configure it for social media or sending it to a server target. You can kind of pick which one you want. So I'm going to pick download for the purposes of the chat. So then it will actually give you all the options to configure it in this easy dashboard. You just have to take a look at your fields here. This is what we call the fields in Merlin. And then you have your labels here as well. So you can kind of click in here and just change the labels if you'd like to. These labels are what your users are going to see. And then it's simple checkboxes. So if you want to display a field, you just click on the checkbox. If you decide you don't want this field anymore, you can unclick it. You can also easily make it required just by clicking on the checkbox. And then you can add pick lists just by using commas and then typing in the information you want to use. So I'm going to add an additional department. So once you're done adding the information that you want to this form, you have the choice also of making a default value. So if you wanted to auto populate to a specific field, you can just type it in here. Once you're done making any of the changes that you want to make, all you have to do is save your settings. Then you get a little notification here that your settings were saved. And then in order to see the settings, we always recommend that you log out and back in. So I'm going to log out and log back in. All right, so now that we're logged in, I am going to download another asset. And again, this is the fields for output history, and you can see communications is now displayed here, so I can just click on the options. And I could skip one if I want, so I'm going to skip how it's used because that's not required and click download. All right, and so now the history that we added is on this asset. The only other thing I want to show you is that for share, just as an example, so if, like I said earlier, if you do not make any required fields, it's just going to display as closed, just an additional line here for your users to open if they need it, and they can leave it closed if they don't need it. And again, if you don't configure this at all, it won't be displayed for your users at all to see. All right, so Does anyone have any questions? I know we kind of went through that quickly.
Oh, here we go.
Looks like we've got a couple coming through. And again, keep in mind your questions don't have to be specific to today's topic.
Okay. Well, this one was definitely off topic. Philip Lyons is asking, how do you get auto tags in the metadata? That's actually an add-on to that's available to everybody if they choose to purchase it. We have an API that as an image comes into Merlin, the thumbnail gets sent. We create the thumbnail, gets sent to Google Cloud Vision, where the image, we're using their AI, so the description of the image or OCR or whatever, how it's configured, gets automatically added. And anybody who's interested in that can contact me after the session. I'll be happy to go over it, what costs are involved. Jeff is asking if we can we search or run reports based on output history?
So we do have, we have a feature request in the works in which we'll be able to run additional reports on usage history. Currently, there are some reports that pull some of that information, and those reports are the download report. I'm just going to give you a sneak. So the downloads report and then the publish metadata report do pull some of that information, but we do have a request to do kind of a report that encompasses more of those custom fields for you guys.
That's all the questions we have at the moment. Oh, hang on.
Oh, so 5.6 is actually already released, Catherine. So we're actually our operations team is going through the process of reaching out to customers and scheduling those upgrades. So it's something that you will have very soon. No problem. All right.
Catherine said thanks.
I think that's all we have for today, unless anyone else has questions. And feel free to reach out after the chat if you have follow-up questions. Our support team, as well as me and Randy, are always available to help. So thanks everyone for joining us today, and please join us again next month, and feel free to share any ideas that you have for new topics.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, thanks everyone. Have a good Wednesday.